live streams, but I've never done my own, mostly because I've seen the pitfalls of what happens potentially with bad things that can happen when you're doing a live stream. Like all of a sudden, someone will, on the other side will be like, "Oh, I'm going to share my screen and do blah blah blah," and then all of a sudden something bad happens.
I guess
we had a lot of people get hit with stuff. Anyway, I'm good. No worries.
That's true. Okay, but now it seems like we're live. So now we're here with the godfather of Flat Earth. Come on, Mark, you're the godfather. Who is the godfather if not you? I mean, Flat Earth Dave is, mentioned in there, I guess.
I don't think you should talk to me about the godfather. No.
Why not?
Why? You sounded like Trump just then. That was scary.
Yeah, but I've tried to sound like Trump. Mark is a really great guy. He went to Flat Earth. I know it's a crazy thing. I don't believe that Earth is flat. I think it's round, but I don't care. I love everybody. No, he doesn't say
that's good. For someone that doesn't have a straight up American accent, that's pretty good.
Hey, listen, Mark, I've only spoken English for 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And you are currently in Sweden, but you were originally from?
I'm from Iran originally. I came to Sweden when I was 3 years old in 1987. So I'm 39 now. I'm turning 40. It's not nice, but yeah. So I came to Sweden in 1987. But yeah, of course, I knew about English. We learned that in school, and I got some good grades in it. But actually speaking English, I only did that when I was, traveling and shit like that. But ever since I started to stream, then I started to speak English. And the thing is this: the more you do it, the better you get at it. So. Yeah. That's just what it is. Yeah. So 5 years. That's it.
And by the way, just so you know, I am not real. I mean, yes, I'm an OG when it comes to Flat Earth, and by that I mean old guy. I've done. In fact, the Flat Earth Clues are going to turn 9 years old in 2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks. But 9 years. On the 10th of February, they'll be 9 years old. Were there guys doing it before me? Yes, Eric Dubé was releasing his content in 2014. Matt Boylan, one of the reasons I looked into it, he was releasing his stuff before 2015. My first official video was on February 10th, 2015. And yes, I can take credit for a bunch of people getting into it. The late Rob Skiba, Jaron, because he thought my video quality was crap. All sorts of people, the first conference and a lot of people getting into it. Yes, you bet. I am the first year. So if you get into Flat Earth, at least back in the day, there was a high degree of possibility that you were going to run into my stuff first. In fact, many people came to me and said, "Oh yeah, I looked at Eric's stuff. I thought it was too hard to understand. Then I looked at your stuff. Then I went back to Eric's stuff." And it's like, okay. So,
I think the first time I saw you, briefly was in some documentary that was making fun of flat earthers. I don't remember what it was.
Netflix documentary Behind the Curve.
Yeah.
Which was shot in 2017, released towards the end of 2018. And they didn't like us very much. They did everything they could. They went after Jaron, they went after Bob. They didn't go after Patricia because she was pretty. They went after Nathan Thompson. They went after basically everybody in that except for Patricia. And they, in fact, David Weiss, who I know you've talked to before, he actually would have been in it. He was so close to being in it, but he hadn't really developed his content yet. And I think in hindsight, he's like, "Oh yeah, probably glad that he wasn't, because they would have taken cracks at him too."
But both of you got trolls after you. Even Flat Earth Dave. They're like, "Oh, he doesn't believe Flat Earth. He's just doing this for this and that."
Right.
The drills that they say. Like, "Oh, you're not in it for whatever."
Well, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, well, denial is a powerful thing. And I have run into a lot of, I lost count of the amount of interviews I've done, but a lot of people that had said, "I don't believe that you believe it." Their denial is so, because the 5 stages of acceptance: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Denial is so strong for some people, they project it onto you. Not only do I not believe it, I don't believe that you believe it. It's like you've got to be running a con of some kind. It's like, dude, I've been doing this for 9 years. If you know what my con is, I'd love to hear it, because I don't know. It'd be like I've been so far in deep cover that I've lost my identity. Yeah, that's got to be it.
Yeah, but you know how I do it. I of course, if somebody says, "Oh, he's a shill," I can look at that, but I judge from what do you say, first-hand experience. I want to make my own conclusion about people, because you know why? Because I wouldn't want people to do that to me. Like if somebody said a bunch of shit about me, and I wouldn't want people to just judge me just by hearing things about me from.
Yeah, the one of the bad things about social media, which I have noticed, because I'm old enough to remember the internet when it was brand new, is that people now have a chance. There's a whole new level of trolls. Trolls back in the day in real life don't last very long. In school, someone can troll you once, maybe twice, but eventually they're going to get beat up. They're going to get stuffed into a garbage can.
Exactly.
And where I remember when it happened, when the first forums went out there, and then you could almost hear because it's mostly young men winding up, which is like, wait a minute, I can say anything I want to anybody I want with no repercussions at all, right? Yeah. And you can hear them like cracking their knuckles. It's like, I am going to troll people forever because my life sucks. And there's so many layers of trolls. I mean, come on, the YouTube thing, the reason why they got rid of the thumbs down in YouTube after a number of years, right? Yeah. Which was you could only go, like, you could watch a video that you could have a video about puppies and kittens playing in a children's cancer ward, right? With everybody smiling and there's tears coming down your face. And you will, within 100 hits, you're going to have some guy in there that says, thumbs down, I hate you, unsubbed, screw everything and everything you enjoy. Just because they hate their life. It's like, yep, there's where we are.
Yeah, but I also think one of the reasons they took away the thumbs down was, Biden.
Yes.
His inauguration video. Did you know about that?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
150,000 thumbs down.
Yeah. And again, doesn't that tell you? Yeah. Social media has now not, I mean, it started with like Rotten Tomatoes and the movie companies that invested in Rotten Tomatoes. And then once they got to YouTube, they were like, oh, no, it's not the truth. It's not objective anymore. It's subjective. So a lot of people don't even hit thumbs up because it's like, what's the point? We can't see the thumbs down. So why hit thumbs up?
But you know what I would want to see regarding the thumbs up and thumbs down? I would want to see a middle finger, or a middle thumb, not a middle finger, but middle thumb. Because sometimes I might agree with some of what you say and disagree with a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, that's not bad.
Right? I don't want to give you a full thumbs up, but I
want
to
give like a medium. Yeah.
Yeah, but, and maybe that would help. I think a lot of this thumbs down or thumbs up is what do you say, sitting in the psyche of people, because we don't have any middle ground anymore in the internet. So add something in the middle.
Yeah, you're right. It should be so like thumbs up, thumbs down. It should be probably a fist. Just a straight fist.
Why not?
That's good. I like it. But however, your idea is too late, because like you said, it's so polarized now. Yeah. There is no middle ground. You're either with us or you're against us. And
a lot of sorry. Yeah.
I mean, that applies to everything nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of people want to give full blame to Trump on that thing. And I would say he has some blame in it, but I would also add this, though. I think we're in a time where, I think I mentioned this in the other stream, that we have become like, it's either the truth side or the lie side. Like something has happened in society where we're separated. I don't know if it was Trump that was, unraveling it, or like, bringing that up to the surface, or what. But even without Trump now, we are so like divided in a sense. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, a lot of it's red team, blue team, or like you said, the people people that are open-minded to the truth, and the people that really are stuck in their comfort zones and they don't want to leave their comfort zones for whatever reason. I mean, I'm picking on this week on my podcast that I do on Tuesdays. I'm picking on Matt Walsh, for example. If you don't know who he is,
I know who he is.
It's like, dude, he made a huge mistake, which
I know, right?
It's like, okay, so you do the what is a woman thing, which got great response. It's like, oh, red team was all for you, and people are like, oh yeah, you must be red team there before you got to be open minded. And then he's like, oh, by the way, the moon missions were absolutely real. And then when the internet came at him hard, right? Yeah. He dug in and did an 18-minute rant against those people without any graphics or anything. He just sat there and yelled at the camera for 18 minutes and gave them, I mean, you could tell he was quoting Neil Tyson, he was quoting Elon Musk, without mentioning their names. I was going, dude, you are. So my show literally this week is called Dear Matt Walsh, NASA Lies. Or NASA Lies. Yeah.
Exactly. So that guy, he became kind of famous because he stated the obvious that men cannot be women.
Right.
And women cannot be men. So he got like, wow, really famous because of that. But I mean, with that video he just did on the moon landing, either he is dishonest or something, or he's not that bright, because I don't understand how people cannot connect the dots. Like, can't he understand that the people that pushes that whole T thing, also the people that is lying about the moon landing and the globe and the climate and all that stuff, they're all, it's all a web. It's the same type of people.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna call him red team in name only. So he's still a rhino, but a different type of rhino. So you want to say Republican in name only, that's fine. I would say red team in name only, because if you believe in the moon missions, and I mean, he wasn't shy about it. He wasn't humming or hawing about it. He's like, moon missions, 100% legit.
Why would they lie?
And all these crap reasons. And at the end, I'm going, okay, so you don't believe in any conspiracies. Now, you may be outraged about the whole man and woman thing, but I mean, I'd be hard pressed. I mean, you might as well go to him. I haven't looked in his back catalog and be like, so what do you think about the shot in the arm? Exactly. Right? What's your take about that?
Hey, we're gonna go into all of that too.
Yeah.
But in code, of course.
Yeah, of course, in code. Yeah.
Hey, listen. I forgot to mention before we go into all of this. Another guy I connected with, he's from Canada. He's called King Nico. He got super excited when I said I was going to talk to you.
Oh, cool.
And he was wondering, like, can he get in touch with you and maybe do something?
Absolutely. And by the way, anyone that wants to get in touch with me, I don't have to announce it here. You literally, all you have to do is Google Flat Earth Mark, or just go to the description box of every single video I've ever made. And all my contact info is in there. My email address, my phone number, my home address, everything, you name it.
That is the thing that I was impressed with you. Like, you just jumped into my stream the other day. I didn't even think it was you. I was like, you're not.
I was, man.
I was like, get the fuck out of here. Who are you trying to pretend? But it was you. And I think that's a really cool thing to do, because I absolutely hate snobbish type of people. I don't care how many million subs you have. You're still a human, okay? So sit down. You know what I mean? But the way you do it is, I have to give you credit, because that's the way it should be. And you're also encouraging people. Like, I think the problem with our side, or the truth side, or whatever you want to say, is, the other side, they're very good at getting together. Our side, we're so. How do you say it? We're
cliquish. I know. We've got our own groups.
Yeah, we do our own thing. We're too separated. You know what I mean? Nothing works without a team. Nothing. We should all team up.
We do meetups, and the last 3 years we haven't done that many conferences, except for Karen. Karen did some wonderful conferences. But we're ever since the mandates have been lifted, we've been coming back pretty strong. Don't forget that in 2019, before this whole thing happened, right, the whole shot in the arm thing, we were bulletproof. We could do no wrong. We had done conferences in 7 countries in 2019. We had done, I don't know how many meetups, hundreds of meetups at that point. And I remember specifically, and I don't mean to like drop credibility or anything, but I had come back from a talk show in London, and they called me and they said, "Hey, would you like to come back over and do a McDonald's commercial for Pancake Day?" Yeah, and I was going, "Yeah, I am absolutely." Because I've told people, I go, "Look, you can tie me to a chair and throw pies at me if you want, as long as I get to say flat Earth, I'm fine, right? And pay me, and
exactly,
and pay me. Yeah, I'm not doing it for free." And then I mean, passports were ready, and then all of a sudden, and we were ready to go in February of 2020. And then all of a sudden, I get a phone call. It's like, yeah, so the border's closed. We don't know it's going to reopen. It's like, oh, and
dude, let me briefly talk about that, because I saw that you got a lot of flack for that commercial you did with
the one in Australia for the mobile commercial. Yeah,
and they're like, how can he do that? And I was thinking, maybe he's thinking, okay, first of all, I get cash. Okay, let's face it, we all need cash. We can't survive without cash. Okay, he gets cash. And okay, maybe he, makes fun of Flat Earth, but at least maybe he's thinking he's pushing Flat Earth still.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And the VP of that particular mobile company was one of ours. It's not like, and I only knew this when I got down there because it was a part of a bigger campaign. And there were a bunch of different people pretending to be Americans in the room, like beauty queens, for example. There were beauty queens that were walking by. And I said, wow, how'd you get Miss South Carolina? It's like, no, mate, she's Australian. I was going, what? I was going, and I go, wait a minute. And they go, you're the only American here. And I go, why'd you fly me in? Exactly. You could have had anyone pretend to be a flat earther, right? You didn't have to actually bring me in. And they said the VP over there wanted you. And I go over and meet him. And it's like, oh yeah, that's absolutely one of ours, but he was never going to say it publicly. And he wanted, and it's like, we didn't have dinner together deliberately. But he was on, he was watching in the wings at all times. It's like, oh, that's great, fantastic, and they paid well, and I used a chunk of that money to help promote the Global tour, the van tour around Europe, which was and I donated to a whole bunch of flat Earth causes, and it was absolutely worth it. I do not regret that one for a second. Yeah. Not even a second. And it was last minute. I mean, it was like it's like, hey, can you be in Melbourne in 10 days? I go, for what? And they go, we want you to do a mobile commercial. I'm going, for what am I doing? And I read the script. I was going, yeah, I'm there. So there.
Well, it might do good because a lot of people might not even have never heard of Flat Earth.
There you go.
Maybe that will,
No different than Behind the Curve, the Netflix documentary, which was, people say, oh, the Netflix, it was a hit piece. Yeah, absolutely was. But you don't understand how many people watched that thing. It ran for 3 years on Netflix. And for the first 2, it was like in the top 10 of documentaries, constantly being pushed. And I had so many people that ran into me that had questions, that were exposed to it because of Flat Earth. Sorry, I know we got to talk about other things, but I want to mention there was a producer, the number of producers, but one specifically said, he goes, and I remember this forever. He goes, it doesn't matter whether you love or you hate a topic, as long as you're talking about it, as long as you're engaged in it. That's all we care about. In fact, some of the best villains out there are because you hate the characters. Everybody from Jersey Shore. One of my favorite would be Gordon Ramsay, for example. The chef, Hell's Kitchen, that whole thing. Gordon Ramsay.
My wife watched that. Yeah.
People don't understand. In real life, he is one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. And then all of a sudden, he does a thing where he pretends to be a villain. And people are like, oh, I hate that guy so much. I can't stop watching him. And the producer's like, you are now a villain from now until the end of time. And that was it. And it's like, every once in a while he'll slip and he'll go into nice guy mode. And you can tell, I mean, I used to watch some of his early stuff when he was on the BBC, soft spoken, real quiet. And
that doesn't work.
Yeah. Nobody cared about him back then. It's like, be an asshole, start yelling at people, throw stuff around the kitchen. Right. It's like, that's what people want.
Exactly. So exactly what you said. As long as people pay attention, and if what the thing you're trying to make people pay attention to, if that is the truth, like if it holds truth, eventually that will grow like seeds in people's heads. You know what I mean?
Yes. Absolutely.
So just get the eyeballs is really the most
Yeah.
important. And then,
if you can get them engaged, that's all that matters. It does not, again, one of the sad things about being a flat earther, one of the few regrets is you don't get the ability to change somebody in front of you. You're talking to them, you're like, I'm not getting through. It's like, you're not supposed to get through. They're going to get through when they're at home at 3 a.m. in their underwear, typing, it's like, and then all of a sudden it's going to click. And it's unfortunate that you're not going to see them when they do it, but eventually maybe you're going to run into them later. And I've had a bunch of people later. It's like, dude, I totally hated it. And now I'm there. But yeah, go ahead.
Isn't that the same regarding almost everything with truth? Like,
yes,
when we do truth stuff or content that has to do with truth, we might never really see all of the people waking up to it. As you just said, it might be in the background.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to have faith when we do the truth stuff. Because
and patience. You don't, again, you can't rush it. Every, like over here in the States, we have Thanksgiving and Christmas, which are pretty close to each other. And I have to warn people every year. I go, do not go to Thanksgiving and set it up for the table to where everyone's eating dinner. It's like, so Fred, what have you been doing? Let me tell you what I've been doing. I'm into flat earth now. Do not do that ever, ever, ever. Because one of the curses of flat earth is by the time you click, once it hits you, you forget the journey it took you to get there. And it's like, oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. Why didn't I understand this before? I can convince somebody over a cup of coffee. It's like, no, you can't. No, do not try. And because you're going to get upset. It's like, because you're looking, it's like, why don't you get this? And it's like, well, because it's, some people take a couple days, some people take a couple weeks, some people take a couple months. It took me 9 months to get it.
So which year was that? Like when you?
I looked into it summer of 2014 and hammered on it until literally February of 2015. But I didn't have a lot of content to work on either. Like I had never watched an Eric Dubay video during that time. I had watched Matt Boylan, and a couple guys from Europe, a German guy and a French guy.
What about that black dude from the UK, Dave? Allegedly, Dave.
Oh, allegedly Dave. No, hadn't got to him yet. Hadn't gotten to him yet. So there wasn't that much content out there. And so finally, after wrestling with it, I just gave up. I mean, it wasn't like I came to some epiphany. I gave up and put a series of videos out there that was basically just asking questions to the internet. It's like, okay, guys, I can't figure this out entirely. Help me out here. And that's why I put my contact information out. It's like, get a hold of me. Get a hold of me. I even put it in the early videos. It's like, here's my phone number. Here's my address. Find me and tell me where I'm going wrong here. And I half expected some guy from, some university to call me up and say, all right, here's where you screwed up. And they never did. To this day, I've talked to universities, but not directly where they wanted to debunk it. Now I've got universities that want to talk to me, want me to talk to their classes about alternative thinking. Yeah. And the science teachers are like, still, they make mistakes. It's like, we're going to talk to Mark because he's alternative thinking. Now he's wrong, but we're going to talk to him. I was going, that's a terrible idea, because you're going to have me talking to your classroom now, and that's going to get in their heads.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's funny that you mentioned 2014, because for me, I heard about flat Earth in 2015, and me personally, I woke up to, conspiracies in like 2006 or something. I had a older brother that listened to a lot of metal music and satanic shit. But he stumbled upon a documentary that had the Illuminati stuff in it. So I saw that documentary and I was like, my eyes were opened up to the secret cabal or whatever.
Right.
Basically, I was open to a lot of conspiracies, but when I heard flat Earth, I was like, no, that's
can't be. Yeah,
right.
There's no way.
I'm ashamed of myself because of the way I reacted to flat Earth. Because in that very thing, I was kind of like a sheeple, like, get out of here with that nonsense. What are we, caveman? But something said inside of my head, like, you have to at least look at what's going on. Why is there a movement talking about flat Earth? And then somebody showed me the boat the boat zooming back in from the horizon.
Right.
And I was like, hold on, what the fuck? That's not supposed to happen.
Right.
What is that? So that opened my head to flat Earth, and then
Nice.
I just dived in more. Yeah.
I was embarrassed to click on my first flat Earth video, and I mean physically flushed. And I was wondering what the hell was wrong with me. Meaning, when I first clicked on my flat Earth video, I felt it was like. I mean, I caught myself. It's like I literally felt the blood rushing to my face. I was going, "What am I clicking on? Some weird porn that I've never seen before?" Seriously, it like hit me that way. It's where you're like, it's like, "Oh wow, I shouldn't be on this page. This is some really weird stuff."
Right.
And I'm like watching a flat Earth video. It's like, yeah, but why did I feel that way? It's like it's flat Earth. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. It's not something taboo and forbidden, and yet it was. Because you've been conditioned so much over the years, especially over here, where in the States we put the globe usually right underneath the American flag in the classroom. That's just where you put it.
Yes.
We don't tell it. It's not required. That's just where we put it. And there's a lot of people, by the time they graduate high school, it's like, hey, I'm thinking of joining the military. That's the flag. That's where I live. That's what I'm willing to defend that. Oh, hey, that's the globe. That's also where I live. I'm willing to defend that too. And to David Weiss's credit, he got me along those lines where there were some French guys here recently from a documentary team. And I was asked, I threw it at him, and I was being rhetorical, but I wanted to say, I go here, let me throw this at you. Ready? How fast is the Earth traveling? How fast is it spinning? How fast is it traveling around the sun? How fast is the solar system going sideways? And how fast is our galaxy moving through the universe? You don't know any of these things, right? No. But you're willing to defend it. Why are you defending a model you don't know?
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, you could see their heads, start to click a little bit. It's like, yeah, it's because you're conditioned to. You're told. It's like, no, it's obvious. It's a given. This is what's true. It's like, no,
yeah,
it's not. It's just what you've been told.
It's the authority giving you that thing. Like, also, it also doesn't it have something to do with the TV as well? Like, because they pushed that shit when TV came to the scene, right? They pushed that shit with the TV, and you got mesmerized, and it came from an authoritative place. This is the globe, and also, as you said, like, why do they put that shit when we are like little kids, like 1 through 3, 4 years old? Like, why do we need to see that?
Yeah, it's the only thing, by the way, we debunk to children. The only conspiracy out there. You don't talk to children about Pearl Harbor or JFK or 9/11 or any of that crap.
But you have to brainwash them with the globe.
Yeah, but the first thing, we used to think it's flat, but actually it's this. Here, it's going to sit in the corner for your next 12 years at least. CIA pays top dollar for that sort of conditioning, and we do it for free.
So yeah, exactly. So they obviously think it's very important to indoctrinate the kids at that very ages, because otherwise, if the kids are not introduced with the ball, they will not probably believe that shit. They will say, "Hey, it's flat, man. What do you mean?"
It's brilliant. The plan worked really well. That, and of course, introducing the globe into just about every television and movie over the last 30, 40 years, at least. And to where I'm hyper aware of it now, to where every new show, you see it. It's like, why is there? It's like, oh, fine. If you have a globe in a classroom, because the classroom's on television, it's like, okay, I get that. But why is there a globe on top of that detective's office, in Chicago? Why is there a globe in that doctor's office? Why is there a globe in that billionaire's study for no apparent reason? And I get the behind the scenes. It is brilliant. It's silent producers. I've heard the stories where you go in. A lot of people know in America, you can donate money to a movie or a television show, right? It's like, oh, here, I want to donate $20,000 to your movie. They say, okay, what do you want? What do you want for that $20,000? You want producer credit? What do you want? And it's like, no. I just want to help set design this one room. And they're going, fine, we'll take your money, right? And somewhere along the line, you put in, and they've got various globes of sizes and colors. You put a globe in there. And if the show only runs for one season, it's like, it's fine. But if it runs for 8 or 9 seasons, that is money well spent. Because you remember, once it's there, it's not like you have to pay every year. It's there for 8 or 9 years. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And subliminally, it works.
I think I saw Flat Earth Dave mention that before the moon landing thing, that I don't know if it was Paramount or whatever the movie company was. They already had the globe model
Yes.
done.
Yeah, I was in the 30s. Remember, NASA wasn't even founded until 1958. So how did it was Universal, by the way.
Oh, Universal.
Yeah, Universal. So why did Universal have a little biplane flying around this globe? Where did you get that? In fact, I'll use a quote which I've done many times, which is the George Orwell, who wrote 1984. He did that little article in 1946. And he said, he goes, remember, he wasn't a flat earther, but he was talking about how people just believe science no matter what they say, right?
It's the new religion, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes, look, you could walk up to him on the street and go, how do you know it's a globe? Right? And their first response is, what are you talking about? We know it's a known thing, right? And then you look at him and you say, no. How do you know it's a globe? Right? Yeah. And then they realize it's like, wait a minute, I was just told it was a globe. And we didn't test it. So how did everybody in the world in 1946 know it was a globe when NASA wasn't even founded until 1958? And I know some people say, "Oh, math." It's like, nope. Math describes things. Math isn't. Math will only get you so far. Eventually, you got to go up there and check for yourself. So how? And again, people feel bad because they feel like they were tricked, but it's like, no. You were born into this. It was before your father and your father's father, going back so many generations. That, we didn't have a chance.
Mark, when I was a glober, I don't know, when I was like when I was young and I believed in the globe, right. I was always thinking about like, why aren't there more people thinking about that we're spinning on a ball in a endless galaxy or whatever? I think I know, or I have a guess why. Because not until you mention to the sheeple that we are on a globe spinning through space will they ever think about it. And my guess is that's because subconsciously they don't think we are on a globe spinning in galaxy. So you have to remind them that we are on a globe spinning in a galaxy.
Yeah, you're reminding people how small and insignificant they are.
Yeah.
Beforehand, it's like, oh no, it's a big world. You're walking around in it, but it's like scientists will remind you. Now it's on a daily basis. It's like, oh no. You are in this tiny little rock flying through an impossibly huge universe, and you could be snuffed out at any time. There are threats everywhere. There's gamma ray bursts and black holes and meteorites, and the sun could explode and all sorts of fun stuff. But you're right. They have to remind you all the time because the average person doesn't care. The average person's like, how does that affect the price of beer?
Yeah, because they don't ever feel any spin or any shit like that.
No.
Let me ask you, Mark. I want to ask you about. They say that light can travel. Like they say that if we're gonna believe the globe nonsense, they say that the sun, the rays from the sun, they're like from 8 minutes ago because they have traveled to you. I don't know. I'm not an expert on any of this. I just have a good critical mind. So I'm thinking, isn't light like fixed to the light source? Meaning, like if I have a lamp, it has a certain light that reaches a certain length, and that's it.
Sure.
Or is light, or can you send light like you're sending package of something? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, I can only tell you from the simulations we've done over the years, which I'm a big believer in simulation theory anyway.
Me too.
Because I come from the computer world, and that's what we've always strived to do. And the early simulations, for example, there was no sun and the moon. There was we just lightened and darkened the sky. Mm-hmm. So do I think, for example, that the sun is the only light source that's helping light up this place? No, because that's not what we do. Now we show the sun, and we can show some corpuscular rays and do some fun stuff with it, but that's not what lights up the rest of the world. There's a whole nother lighting mechanism that lights up the rest of the world, again, when we're creating simulations. Yeah. And I have said for a number of years that the simulation worlds that we make really give a lot of hints to where we are, notably the double split.
About, like, video games and virtual reality, right?
Yeah, virtual reality. the Matrix.
We got to talk about this, Mark, because
Okay.
I've worked with VR when I made a music soundtrack to Tarzan VR.
Oh, cool.
So I've been working with VR headsets, but I also made my own little games as well, like 2D games. But
Sure.
I really want to talk about stuff like that as well with you. But do you think, because in a video game, when you put a light source there, like this simulation of a sun,
Right.
you know, the light is still fixed to that ball or whatever, and you move that ball around, and then the light moves with the ball. You know what I mean? Like programming thing. I kind of think it's the same thing in this simulation, because I believe this is a simulation as well.
Yeah, I do too. I wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Again, the double slit experiment, if you guys don't know, if you haven't never looked it up, it's something that we didn't even know what it meant when we discovered it in physics. And then when we start doing the computer world, it's like, oh, hey, now it makes way more sense, which is in the computer world, you only render graphics for things you are looking at.
Exactly.
Right? Whatever's behind you in a video, it's called flashlight graphics. You might as well be in a completely black room and your field of view is a flashlight. The question is that why does that happen here? Meaning, when you're the double slit experiment says that whatever you're not looking at is not being rendered entirely, completely. And
Yes.
Physicists don't know what to do with it. But I love science's logic, which is, well, it's repeatable, therefore it's science. I'm just going, yeah, but it might as well be magic, because you can't understand it. You just say the observer creates the reality. It's like, yeah, but that's what we're doing in computers. So you might want to make the leap there, but they won't do it. And there's like, no, it's repeatable, therefore it's science. Like, yeah, I get it. Sort of like airplanes. You know, the physicists will tell you, by the way, they can't tell you exactly why airplanes fly. A lot of people don't know that. You know, there's a couple different theories behind it. They know approximately how they fly, but they don't know exactly how they fly. The point is, because it's forever repeatable, the plane goes from point A to point B and nobody dies. Hey, you know what? It's science. Let's just go with it. It's like, yeah, but you can't completely explain it. It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Plane works. Plane works.
It's funny that you mentioned that thing with rendering. I think there was a guy called Thomas Campbell. He's like a guy that talks about life being a simulation. He also said, behind you, it's not rendered until you turn around, because it's unnecessary. Like, it's using computer power.
Absolutely. Why draw it? Or not just the stuff behind you, the stuff off in the distance, which I say, look, there's a mountain way off in the distance in a video game. Do you get to see the other mountain, the other side of the mountain as a character? No. Well, then why would you draw it? Well, you wouldn't. Apply that to everything, even the micro side of it, which is, unless you're zooming into every blade of grass, then why render everything that's going on with the blade of grass?
Exactly. Oh yeah, go. Sorry,
well, and to that point with the sky, and, you know, fine, you have telescopes. You have a telescope, you can zoom in, but I think until you have the ability to zoom in, it's only going to show you the rough stuff. You know, it's like, oh, okay, there's some stars, but you can only see the first layer of stars. Now, when you get a telescope, sure, we'll zoom in for that, but we're not gonna help you out, and that's what we do with everything.
You got a little bit blurry right now. I don't know why.
Oh, we did? Oh, crap. Hang on.
The computer of life tries to save a little bit computer power.
There we go.
Yeah, a little bit better.
Sorry, I was blending into the matrix just then.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, because when I was working with the VR thing, it was so crazy, because when you put that shit on, even though the graphics is not that good, your brain believes that you are in that world. Like,
more or less. I mean, it still only touches on the two senses, but it's getting there.
I know, but visually, it fools your brain. So
yes, it does.
There must be some correlation there with, you know, our reality.
Visually, that's our weakest thing. If you've never looked it up, they did a study with wooden cars years ago. In fact, you know this. Anyone that's listening, when you're in stop and go traffic, or maybe on a train, or maybe on a plane, right? But usually in traffic is when people freak out the most. All of a sudden, you're zoning out, right? You're in stop and go traffic. Then all of a sudden, the car next to you is moving. And for the briefest second, you're like, wait a minute, did I take my foot off the brake? Or is he, or, you know, is it me or is it him? And so they tested this with wooden cars, where they put people in a wooden car and they would either move the car or they would move the wall in front of them. Human beings cannot tell what is what. It is our huge weakness. It was almost, we were designed for a simulation. And let me talk about this for a second, which is the reason why I bring up flat Earth.
Yeah.
Is because most people still to this day, even though we are decades down the road, can't understand the concept of virtual reality, which is, look, the Matrix turns 25 years old this year. 25 years ago, that was the Matrix came out.
Yeah.
It came out in 99. And I would love to bring up virtual reality and the double slit experiment and neuroscience versus free will and stuff like that. But people still cannot get their heads around it for whatever reason. So the closest I can get is like flat Earth, because every simulation we make, by the way, is flat. In fact, it's not just
plane.
Yeah, it's not just flat, it's in a box. Like the very famous Skybox rendering system is called Skybox. Now we can simulate, and that is because in engineering, sorry, let me go off on a quick tangent, which is, computers can't draw circles. A lot of people don't know this. It's like they can only draw the illusion of a circle, meaning that's why pixels are square. Right?
Hold on, Mark. This is crazy. This is crazy because I have pulled up this very, very thing about the circle. Let me prove it to you right now. Hold on.
Okay.
That's weird. I don't know. Hold on. Let me see if you can see it here. Hold on.
That's me.
Oh yeah, that's you. Hold on.
That's your background.
Okay, hold on.
That's all right.
Let me put you here.
Oh, that's that circle.
This is so weird that you mentioned it, because I wanted to bring this up with you. Because if you zoom into a circle, it becomes squares. Like even a circle. Let me come back. Even a circle is made out of straight lines. Like if you point from the middle to whatever, it's straight lines.
It's right angles. Yeah, absolutely. Because try to think, those that are out there that think they're pretty smart, how do you tell a computer to draw a circle? How do you do it? And it's like, you can't. The closest you can get is just these tiny little steps. And for anyone that's old enough to remember the really old video game systems, there were no circles in the really old video game systems. They were all just freaking clumps of squares because we didn't have the resolution. The only thing that's changed now is the resolution, and the pixels have gotten so small that the human eye can barely detect them. In fact, I have a theory that is, if a human being tried to draw a circle naturally or any sort of curve, I bet you if you zoomed in on a microscopic level, you probably see a whole bunch of little squares, because that's what we do.
So basically, you could say there is no such thing as a curve if you dig deep inside of it.
Well, yeah, but
what is a curve? If you look
right,
at this,
right. It's all engineering is done in squares. I mean, everything we build, when you look at the engineering models, it's done with squares. Now, granted, there's going to be some curves in there, but those curves are taken apart by dividing up squares. Right. In shallow angles, which is what we do in human life. Again, anyone that seriously, computers cannot draw circles. Tell me how they draw circles, and then like you just did there, you think you've got it, fine. Zoom in. I'll show you how the whole thing gets wrecked, because until pixels will always be squares. It's easier to do programming wise, way easier.
Yeah. And another thing I always say is, our 3D reality.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of looks 3D, but is it 3D or is it 2D, giving you the illusion of 3D? Like, then
you're going into a whole nother thing, which is what the virtual reality. Thank you for mentioning that, by the way, which is, anyone that knows programming realizes that things like Fortnite and GTA and Minecraft and Warcraft, they're really 2D. But obviously they're 2D. It's not like the computers. The hard drives are flat, right? Yeah. You are creating the illusion of 3D with a 2D system, and we learned to do that back in the 90s. When we really got into 3D modeling, and we've just improved it from there. But the concept has never changed. You're absolutely right. It is
even us right now, me and you right now on this screen. We are 2D on the screen.
Right.
100%. 100%.
Absolutely.
but it looks 3D because of the
Oh,
technology.
you know what? Let's go a step further. I'll blow your mind. You ready? You ready for this? There's a chance. There's a pretty good probability, in my opinion, that it's not that we're even in we're obviously not in a 3D real time situation. And here's why. And you're young enough to probably know this. There's a lot of kids now that don't even play their own video games. They watch YouTube videos of other people playing video games, right?
Yes.
And they get almost the same sensation in doing it and is actually playing the game themselves. That's why they're so popular. It's like, why do I have to play? I'll just watch this guy play. I don't even want to play my own character. I'll just sit in the couch and watch this guy play. But what blows your mind is that when you're watching it, unless you're talking about some live streaming thing, when you're watching it, you're not even watching a network type situation. You're just watching a little MP4 video piping through YouTube. The resources are very, very, very small. Yeah. So then it's like, wait a minute, and you're getting the same almost the same sensation. So who's to say? I'm saying that we might not even be in a real time scenario. We may be in a pre-record that you set the whole thing up ahead of time. Because again, if you're in this, you want to, you'd pick your highs and lows and the moments, and then all you do is you do a memory block before it starts, and that's all it comes down to is memory. Which is, if you don't have any memory of what this place was before going in and you made the decisions, it's everything you'd want before, and it's like, well, why would I pick that I broke my leg or, I had a family member die or any of this other crap? Yeah. It's like, well, a hero's journey isn't a hero's journey without, some sort of rise and fall, right? You have to go through it. I don't know if you have trust fund kids over where you are, but, if you grow up rich, right? If you grow up rich, you're ruined. It's over. You got nothing. You have no inspiration. The hero's journey has to come somewhere. There has to be peaks and valleys.
Adversaries,
and it would be way more efficient to do that ahead of time than to create some sort of massive integrated real-time situation. And then, of course, it leads into how many people if that's the case, right? How many people are really involved? Meaning, are you the only one that's, are you one of a handful of people that's real in this scenario? I know. And then it gets kind of spooky.
Yeah, when I heard that first, there was this lady called Dolores, old lady. She's dead now, but she said,
dead.
She's dead now. But okay. I don't think we ever died. We just switched to a
sure
different video game. But
there you go.
She said not everybody has a soul. And some people are just NPCs, but you think they're real. But she's like, if you're at the grocery store, you think all of the people that you see there, that they are real. But she's like, they're not. But if you decide to interact with them and maybe follow up and go to their home and things like that, then the simulation renders that so that it doesn't give up the cover.
Bingo. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you don't want, otherwise it gives it away. Absolutely right. I am a huge believer. I'm really surprised the movie, the Ryan Reynolds movie, Free Guy, didn't resonate with more people. Because,
I haven't seen that. Free Guy.
you gotta watch it. Free Guy. And Free Guy was literally about the life of NPCs, which was, there was a world that because a lot of people, if you don't know, when you build a video game system, right, at least nowadays, you populate, like GTA, perfect example.
Yes.
You populate the whole city with NPCs, non-player characters, right? There's an army of NPCs there before the first player even shows up. And that's what Free Guy's about. It's like, what do they do when there are no players in the game? What do the NPCs do? And it's like, oh, that's pretty interesting. But the question is, in a world like this, and I'm not going to pick on any professions in general, but you see people walking around. It's like, and that's what they're doing. Oh yeah, this is what they've done for the last 40 years. It's like, well, no one would sign up for that voluntarily. But so are there, if that was the case, then I'm not going to give a percentage, not necessarily, but most of the people that you interact with are probably NPCs. And to the woman's point, they only get fleshed out if you interact with them directly. It's like, oh, hey, I'm going to date that waitress from that restaurant. She now has a backstory. Now, does that mean she's self-aware? Not necessarily, but at least she's got a backstory.
And maybe later on, she can just turn into an Agent Smith,
which leads into the wonderful movie, if you've never seen it, from, they say 1999, but I'm pretty sure it was 98 when it was released, was The 13th Floor.
Okay,
Fantastic
I've
movie.
heard about that.
If you've
Yeah.
never seen The 13th Floor, which was based on a book from the 60s called Simulacron 3, which
Okay.
was, again, from the 60s, it was a really bold thing, which was when you create a simulation, which is why we'll never get to that point. When you create a simulation that you can dive into completely, right, with all your senses to where you have no idea, you know, like the holodeck or the Matrix,
Yeah.
then when you come out of it, how do you know you're out of it? Meaning it's like, wait a minute, you know, all of a sudden the lines get blurred, which is I do not think that we'll be ever allowed, and I don't think it'll happen medically, because I mean, plugging into your senses means you're going to have to plug literally into the brain, like the Matrix. When you get into that sort of level of virtual reality, how do you know where you are? And the 13th Floor touched on this, which was a simulation within a simulation, which was, by the time the researchers in that movie were figuring out what was going on, it's like, wait a minute, whoa. You know, because everything they saw in there was happening here. And they're like, and all, you know, then everything started to blur, which is because if we create a simulation here where we can dive in, the second we do, this world becomes meaningless, which is why I don't think it's ever allowed to happen, because then no one would care about anything else.
Well, Mark, I disagree with you here, and let me tell you why.
What?
I think that is actually the end goal. Okay, let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because first of all, I don't know if you've seen the Unreal Engine 5. It's like the craziest engine.
I have.
It's sick. It renders, just as we talked about before. It only, like, if you look closely to the ground and see rocks and shit, it makes the rocks perfect. It's not blocky or nothing. But when you zoom out, it reduces the polygons and, you know, puts it somewhere else. Anyways, so I think the end goal is to actually somehow put our brain with all of the senses into a virtual reality, which is indistinct.
We are trying. You're absolutely right. We are trying. In fact, because again, I come from the video game world. We have been. That is the ultimate goal. They've been trying for decades. Which is like, because once they do it, they could. It is the ultimate saleable thing. Everyone would buy it. Absolutely.
Well, okay, Mark, but let me tell you this.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you see religion and things like that. I do want to ask you about religion and stuff like that. But I do. I'm not religious, but I believe in a creator 100%, and that the devil exists. So if the devil exists and he wants your soul, and he wants to be like God, but he can never be like God, what is the next best? What is the next best thing for the devil to do? Create a virtual reality which looks like this one, where you jump into that one, and if they can keep your brain there alive, I don't know how you do that, but if they could, hooked into that reality, then the devil or whoever controls that virtual reality would become God in that world, not in this world, but in that world, and kind of, you know, trap your soul in there for however long they can keep your brain alive, you know? And that would be hell. To me, that would be
potentially
hell. Yeah. So, but just as you said, it has to have no flaws, because I believe if we saw flaws in this reality, we would question this as well. But we don't really see any flaws here.
No, I mean, no, nothing obvious and nothing consistent. You're absolutely right. Well, I mean, come on, the best programs, there are games out there which are almost bulletproof.
Yeah.
You know, even games that we make. It takes a while, you know, but I think the early versions of this were a little rougher. This has been sort of a work in progress. But to your point, let me get this out there, which is when the problem with us trying to create the ultimate virtual reality thing is eventually you have to hook up the other three senses, right? So right now we have sight and sound. But taste, touch, and smell, that's gonna require some medical stuff. And right now, how our system is set up, we don't have, and it really comes down, I hate to say this, because it's not a cop-out, though. It always comes down to the lawyers, which is the lawyers will stop us from going too far, because legally, you never want to put yourself in an actionable situation. I'll give you an example really quick. The Purge movies, right? Purge movies, they've done like 5 of them already, right? Purge, great concept. I love the concept. It's like, oh, wow, blowing off some steam. Never, ever, 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 ever going to happen in real life. Why? Because the insurance companies and the lawyers would never, ever let it happen, because what happens is that night, they focus on people shooting each other. Oh, no, there'd be buildings burning everywhere. The insurance damage would be massive. The insurance system would collapse over it. And that's just the Purge. Imagine trying to hook up. I don't care what Elon says about Neuralink. I don't care. Elon, I hate the guy. He just talks smack constantly. He is nowhere even remotely legit. He is a freaking South African puppet for the United States government. Has always been since minute one. But to hook up those other 3 senses would require something medical. That's the only way we can do it right now. There's no wireless way, and even if there was a wireless way, the bandwidth would be scary, right? Because you'd have to point something directly in, whatever. But it would be something that would be medically iffy. It would be medically controversial, and if there were any side effects at all that were harmful, that product would be banned. I mean, come on, look at remember the Google Glass thing that was going on for a little while, where people, or even that, what was it? Was it the Pokemon thing where you were walking around cities?
Pokemon Go.
Yeah. How'd that turn out? Yeah, people died, and then nobody talked about it anymore because like, oh yeah. Or to one more real quick, which is self-driving cars, right? Even Mercedes has said, it's like, yeah, we can do a self-driving car if it drives in stop and go traffic in the middle of a freeway, right? Slow. It's like, anything outside of that, it's your ass, because there's no way we're going to guarantee it.
But I kind of see it like this. I see it like there is an evil force that will eventually aim to make this happen. I don't know when, but that is the end goal. You know why, Mark? Because look at our real world today. Mm-hmm. They're making it more and more boring. Like we don't interact anymore as we used to.
True.
Like human beings. We don't.
True. Yeah,
we text and do shit like that, but we're losing touch with reality. And I think they might be doing that on purpose, making it more and more boring and making video games and shit like that more exciting. And what better is there than to put on a VR headset that looks exactly like reality, and you can go wherever you want, travel wherever you want, do whatever you want. Even porn is there. Everything is there.
Right.
And it might even look better than this reality with higher resolutions than what your eyes see or something.
Right.
Make it more exciting for the people. And then when they look at reality, they're like, that's boring. This is better.
It's possible. I mean, the sci-fi novels have what was that thing that just came out? Was it what was the new headset that just came out?
Apple something.
Apple, whatever it is. It's like, what is that? Like $3,500? Whoa. That's a little steep for the average consumer.
And eventually that will go down.
Yeah, it'll go down. I don't know. I mean, yes, sorry. Two parts real fast. Do I think, yes, you're absolutely right. The sinister forces of this world want it to happen. I don't think that, for lack of a better term, God will let that happen entirely, because at that point it diminishes his realm. And by the way, your line about the devil created virtual reality, that's actually a pretty good book concept, which is the devil creating a virtual reality, kind of like the Matrix. But I go a different track, which is I think the devil is basically just an employee of God, and always has been. Remember, God supposedly created the devil, therefore the devil has purpose, therefore God has a plan, and the devil is just a major. He's the antagonist on the stage that eventually, kind of like. Do you remember the old movie, and people miss this, which was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the first one, from 1970 with Gene Wilder and the original kids and all that?
Is that the guy behind the curtain?
The guy behind the curtain, Mr. Slugworth, right? Well, the thing about Mr. Slugworth, what they glossed over at the end, was he shows up and Willy Wonka's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. He works for me. The whole thing was a freaking setup. All the kids were set up to freaking fail. In fact, Charlie almost failed at the very end, and he ended up getting the thing. But the point is that Willy Wonka there was no randomness. Willy Wonka created the whole thing, which leads me into my final point on this, which is the old argument. You probably heard this before. Einstein said that God doesn't play dice, right? And then Stephen Hawking, the big argument. It's like, but question what you want about Einstein's math. He was a very, very clever and very, very quotable man. And my point was, it's like, no, God doesn't play dice because God wrote dice. Therefore, God can't play dice the way you and I play dice. We throw the dice. We have no idea it's going to happen. God would know every single freaking time. So God wants to play dice. And I think that for him to throw a billion dice on the floor, he has to temporarily forget that he wrote dice.
Yeah.
In order for him to enjoy it.
But it's funny that you talk about that. Have you heard Alan Watts, this guy from, it's like a guru from the 70s or something. And he has a theory that we are God. Like, he's like, if you were God,
right,
and you dream the best dreams you can ever dream, blah, 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 all of the pleasures you can ever have, blah, 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 the experiences, the most fantastic experiences you could ever have.
Right.
He's like, eventually you will get bored of that. And maybe now you're going to dream an experience where you forget that you're God.
There you
blah,
go.
Blah, 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 blah. And he says, basically, that's where you are right now. Basically, he's saying God has turned himself into something that has forgotten that it is God in order to experience something crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a concept which has been touched on in various things over the years. My favorite was the movie Dogma with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, which was that God forgot that he was God and went to play street hockey on the East Coast in Jersey, and somebody figured it out. And it's like, oh, hey, we can trap him while he's still, just this guy walking around, and he didn't build in safeguards, which was the whole concept of the movie. But yes, I love that concept, or that, there are.
Who knows, right?
Yeah, exactly. The big mystery of this place. But I do believe that, let me go into one more thing, which is I believe it's cyclical. Because people have often asked me, it's like, what's outside of this place? It's like, well, you got to look at where we are, because we can only describe what we see around us, right? We're in a world that's 99.9% conflict, right? It doesn't matter how beautiful, how powerful, how rich, how talented you are. Everybody bitches about something. Doesn't really matter. I mean, you may be the most gorgeous person in the world. I've seen it. All they do is stare at the mirror all day and wait for everything to collapse. Or the money people care about money. Talented people think they're frauds, and so on and so on and so on. If that's the case, then whatever is outside of here has to be 99.9% unlimited. I call it the near perfect, which is I call it the genie scenario. You probably know it from your neck of the woods, which is the genie in the lamp story. You rub the lamp, genie comes out, gives you 3 wishes. You're clever. It's like unlimited wishes, bitch.
Yeah.
and so you run through your cycle, like you were saying. You dream everything you could possibly dream. You date everyone you want to date. You were a rock star. You were an athlete. You were a king. You were whatever you wanted to. Well, the problem is eventually the novelty runs out, right? A Twilight episode touched on this years ago, which was eventually it runs out. And then what do you do? And he's like, oh my God. And so you're going back to the genie and you're like, I'm not done yet, right? You're still hanging around for a couple more centuries doing whatever you want. And then you're like, okay, I'm run out of ideas. What do I do? Right? Is there anything you can do to help me? And the genie goes, yeah, I got some ideas for you. Here's one. I go, I'm going to send you to a place. You're going to hate it. Right, a million ways to die, one way in. In fact, but if you last the 70, 80 years or whatever it is, when you come back here, you're going to treat this like it's brand new. And the genie goes, you want to do this? He goes, I don't know. It kind of sounds kind of bad. He goes, trust me, it'll be great. And he goes, what's the catch? And the genie goes, the catch is you're not even going to remember this conversation. And he snaps his fingers, Thanos style, and voila, you are here. Because wouldn't that make sense? You can't. You've heard the saying, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Yeah. You can't live this life, know where you came from, and still live this life, because this life would become meaningless. Because it kind of like the gaming world. You've done this in the gaming world, right? If you had the ability to bail on this world, people would bail at the first sign of trouble. It's like, oh, I had a bad breakup. Where's the nearest bridge? I'm jumping, right? So it's like it's like, oh, I just lost all my money. I'm going to throw myself into traffic. It would be very similar to that Tom Cruise movie, which was Edge of Tomorrow, otherwise known as Live, Die, Repeat, where he was the soldier that just kept dying over and over, which was basically a video game scenario. where he just kept bailing and bailing and bailing until finally he got the video game. It was basically a video game movie. So that's where I kind of think we are. It's cyclical. You are only here to. I'm a huge believer. Sorry, I got to get this out. Which is, I'm a huge believer in dualism. And I know some people say, well, isn't that like a Masonic thing? It's like, no, dualism is everywhere, which is you can't appreciate something without the opposite. The hero is great. Hot without cold, pain without pleasure, light without shadow, right? You cannot appreciate one without the other. And so how could you even begin to appreciate some sort of nirvana, Shambhala, heaven type scenario unless you went through a place like this? And I'm not saying this is necessarily hell. I mean, you can make this a lot worse, right? You could set everything on fire, I suppose. But this place just screams that there is a better place out there. Yeah, you get your moments of reprieve here. There's some moments of pleasure and some satisfaction, but it's very, very limited, isn't it? I mean, you could be a monk in the Himalayas, you know, in a cross-legged position, hovering 3 feet off the ground in perfect harmony, and you're still going to have to deal with mortality, or you're going to get hungry. One of the two.
It's funny that you mentioned the dualistic thing. You know, even the dimensions, you know, we live in a 3D world,
right?
But it's still based off of the two things, you know, left, right, up, down, in, out. Even if you add another dimension, it will still be somehow based on two axes or whatever.
Right.
But it's funny that you talk about that thing. I want to quickly say this. You know, who knows how many incarnations we've had, or maybe who knows how many times we've lived exactly this version of life.
Right.
How many times you've been Mark Sargent doing exactly everything you've done.
Sure.
With a slight difference, you know.
Yeah.
So, kind of like the movie Groundhog's Day. You know, have you ever seen that?
Many times. Many times. Wonderful movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Fantastic. Kind of like that. You know, we don't know. I don't even remember what I did last week, you know, Monday. You know what I mean? But does that mean that didn't happen? No, it did happen. So just because we don't remember our previous lives doesn't mean that it hasn't happened.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so worthwhile. I think you get big chunks of that memory back when you go back to wherever you came from. Again, I'm stealing from a lot of movies, but that's because I watch a lot of movies. The movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, where she was defining at the end, you know, where she became the omnipotent by the time she got to the end, where she was explaining to the scientist, she goes, you know what defines us? What defines us here is time. More than anything, time has relevance here. Time means everything here. We create the illusions, like up here, for example, in our casinos, we remove all the clocks and we remove all the windows so people don't know what time it is, you know, or could even guess what time it is. You're not even allowed to look outside to see if it's light or dark, you know, because of that. So time defines us, and so if that's the case here, then whatever's outside of here, I think the afterlife doesn't really have clocks. I mean, time passes, but it's meaningless. You know, if you're immortal, then what has time got to do with anything?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned time. I want to touch on two things with time.
Sure.
The first thing is this, quickly. The first thing is this. I was an atheist before. I believed in a creator, because I was, I was trying to solve the question of who created God, if there is a God, and who created that God, and who created that God.
Sure.
Yeah. And not until I realized, hold on, I'm trying to apply what I know in this reality, in this virtual reality, to the creator. The creator has never been created or destroyed. The creator has always existed, but in a endless stream of time, but created a beginning and an end for me in this reality, just like a video game. Like, here's the start point and here's the end point.
Right.
And that is really creation and destruction, whatever.
Right.
So then I was like, of course there's a creator. You know, the creator never got created by anybody. It has always been there.
Right.
So once I realized that, to me, there was a light bulb, like, bam, I believe in a God. But religion, though, I don't know about religion. I want to say something about that with you later. But another thing is, I want to ask you, what do you think time is? because I think time maybe is something like a switch from one state to another, like frame rates in a video game. Without frame rate switches, everything would be still, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that what time is? If you're gonna break it down.
Well, yeah, for me, that's you're pretty much spot on there, which is time for me anyway, is artificial boundaries put into a stream to define moments, and by that I mean, or define lifetimes, or define just events in general. Einstein's quote was pretty good, where he said linear time happens just to make sure everything doesn't happen at once.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But I think time makes things worthwhile. It's like creating rooms in a house. If you don't have the rooms in a house, you just got a big, huge freaking room. Yeah. Even I even believe that the afterlife, or what I call the near perfect, the rooms are much. What's the line from the Bible? My Father's mansion has many rooms, or something like that. But I think in the afterlife, I think they try to define rooms, but it's really, really loose. Sort of like a dream state where things kind of flow into one each other. Here, it's very regimented. But without it, I mean, come on, that's how we were built. But yeah, to your point,
it won't work. It won't work if there aren't states that are switching, like like a movie, like a cartoon or whatever, where you got these different frames.
Yeah, everything is compartmentalized here. Every book. Yeah. Every television show, every podcast, everything is compartmentalized. That is part of what defines us. Yeah. And of course, all of that is inside of linear time. Although for me, time, again, which is why I'm fascinated with time travel movies and time loop movies, anything that has to do with time, is I'm a huge believer that time can be compressed and fractionalized almost infinitely, which is why, you get that thing where you wake up from a dream and you realize you've only been dreaming for like 10 minutes, right? But it lasted a very, very long time. And it's like, that's because time can be compressed. Kind of like the movie Contact, which I loved at the end, which is why so many people didn't get it, which was, she goes, what are you talking about? I just left. I was gone for 18 hours, right? And then when he looked at the footage, he's going, they realized, oh, there was 18 hours of static on her video camera. It's like, it's like, because they compressed time. Yes. Which is why when you leave to come back, like when you come here, we spent 80 years here, give or take, right?
Yeah.
But we may not have left at all when we go back to near perfect, because your friends aren't going to hang around for 80 years. It's like, should we get a burger or something? He's going to be a while. It's like, no, he just left.
Yeah, you're right about that. Like, for example, if I was in a coma for 30 years,
there you go.
And you were alive for 30 years, those 30 years. You got a family, you got kids. But let's say I woke up after those 30 years. For me, those 30 years would feel like 1 second. But for you lived 30 years. So, as you said with the dream thing, what does that say? Like, you might go to sleep for 5 hours, but in those 5 hours, you might have lived 80 years.
Yeah.
In whatever realm that is, because I kind of think the dream world is a weird realm in itself, because it kind of feels real, but it's not until you wake up that you're like, oh, that was a dream.
Right. And then it evaporates, and for good reason. It has to, because if it doesn't evaporate, you are in real trouble. I mean, you've woken up from dreams. It's like, I'm in a bad mood. I'm in a happy mood. It's like, you're in a real anxious mood. It's like, if it didn't evaporate as quickly as it did, you'd have a really bad day.
Yeah. Also what to me, what dreams kind of confirms is that we're not our bodies. What I mean by that is, because if I go to sleep and I sleep in my bed over there, and then I switch the channel to the dream realm or whatever that is,
right.
I'm thinking I'm climbing on a mountain or whatever. Mm-hmm. And to me, that feels real. Yet over here in this reality, my body is still sleeping over there. But to me, that tells me that we are some kind of a consciousness thing that is just switching channels in whatever place we are.
Sure.
Like when we're in this reality, we have switched to this frequency of this reality. And then when we go to sleep, we kind of switch to another realm. Our body is still connected in this realm. Like, to me, I think what they've said about dreams to us, what they've taught us about dreams, I think it's shenanigans. There's some bullshit with that.
They're absolutely.
Just a dream. What is just a dream? You know what I mean? Like,
anyways, they're downplaying it only because they can't record it. There have been a number of movies over the years. One of the oldest ones would have been Brainstorm with Christopher Walken, when you could record thoughts, right? And by the way, I don't think we're going to get to that stage either. When you can record our thoughts onto a hard drive, we're going to have real problems. But have you ever seen the movie The Discovery?
No.
Oh, look it up if you get a chance. It is wonderful. Discovery,
Discovery, and the 13th level or 12th level.
13th floor. I'll email them to you. 13th floor, Discovery, and Freeman. The Discovery was a Robert Redford movie. Did not do real well in the theaters because the message was really weird. Which was a scientist that was trying to record thoughts of people that had deceased. Right, they were gone. Like, it was like, okay, where did they go? And there was the early part, the story kicked off where he had mathematically proven that there was an afterlife. And the second he did that and it was published, like 3 million people committed suicide around the world. It was like bad, really, really bad. And then it gets to the point, he advanced his research to where they got a guy who had recently died and they got video of it. And you could see the guy going through, and what he was doing was he was fixing things in his life, like going through an alternate timeline where he was fixing things in his life that he wanted to fix. Like if he had to do something over, and once they realized that he was in an alternate timeline and they were there, it was one of the finest moments of science where it was totally realistic, which was the scientist goes, okay, shut it all down, burn it all. Meaning, you cannot let the general public know that there's actual physical video proof of an afterlife, what we were talking about earlier. Because if they did, it would be really bad. People would be like, oh, I'm out of here. It's like, there's no way I'm freaking staying. And so, sorry, that was...
Dude, Mark, I know you might not believe that that's possible, but I kind of believe it's possible. Because...
What, recording human dreams onto hard drives?
Or their thoughts or whatever, because if everything is digital, then
okay, you're right. You're absolutely right. From our from outsider standpoint, of course, everything we do is digital. Will we have access to that feed? I doubt it, because it's too damaging to the civilization.
It depends on who we are. When you say we,
okay.
I don't know who the real we are.
Do I think that Sony is going to make a machine that's going to allow you to hook up and you're going to be able to watch the thoughts of your best friend? You know how dangerous that would be? I mean, my God.
I'm not saying that we are going to see it, but they will.
Yes, they would. Yeah, they would. But we couldn't. I mean, come on. You would never even allow something like that because you could never lie at that point. Meaning, you think of how damaging polygraphs are now, right? Imagine if you could hook up to somebody. It's like, so tell me, were you there at the time of the bank robbery? Try lying to a thing to record your thoughts. It would be.
But listen, Mark, I don't know what the Neuralink is going to do regarding thoughts and stuff like that. I don't know just because he says that the only thing I can do with the Neuralink is to control my smartphone doesn't mean that's the case. Maybe that motherfucker can, see stuff in my brain or control me even. I don't know.
What was it? Freeman, The Discovery, and what was the other movie? Oh, 13th floor.
13th floor and Discovery and Freeman.
I got it. Okay. I'm sending this to you now. Anyway, keep
Fantastic.
going. We can go a little longer. That's fine.
Okay, because I want to touch on.
Okay, yeah. Hit me.
I didn't even know that you were so well versed in this shit, because that's pretty cool.
Oh, it's my jam, man. That's where I cut my teeth. Was
many?
This stuff.
It's not many people that are into the subjects like this.
Good point.
So that's very cool. So I wasn't even I didn't know that you. Yeah. Anyway,
really?
But that's cool. But you want to go back to some other stuff, or you want to?
No. Let's go. Whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. Yeah. I want to ask you, like, I like to ask dumb questions because I'm one of those people that I don't care if I look dumb, because for me, I rather look dumb and ask dumb questions. So maybe because from dumb questions, sometimes you can maybe get something good out of them. Basically,
Right.
so I want to ask dumb questions a little bit of the flat Earth stuff.
Sure.
And if you have an answer, and if you don't,
I'm sure I do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's pretend that, when we see the sun set,
Yeah.
the globers say, yeah, that's the curve, over there.
Yeah.
That's the curve that is covering the sun. Okay, fine. But what if I was, let's say, over there and seeing that same sun, like from, what is that? Is that 45 or 90 degrees? Like, it's 90 degrees. Yeah, if I was 90 degrees and seeing that same sun in the ocean setting,
Yeah.
if it was a globe,
Yeah.
then wouldn't the sun needed to be setting like this for me? Because for the other guy that is front facing the sun that is setting, it is going that way. But for me, if I'm 90 degrees there,
okay,
yeah. Do you know what
I know exactly? Yeah, because you're talking about two people, and
yeah, exactly.
So there's a couple ways you could go with this. The first is that if the sun went, let me do the easy one. The easy one is that the sky is, we'll use the computer technology term. The sky is instanced, meaning it's not just the sun, it's all sorts of things. Corpuscular rays, for example, you see you standing in both two people, one is 5 miles that way, one from you, both are taking pictures of this corpuscular rays coming through the sky. Both could swear that the corpuscular rays are right next to them. Who's right? Well, technically both could be right, because if the sky is instanced, and by that, and that's a gaming term, meaning the reality is being rendered for you. And here's one of the great little hooks of this world, or any virtual reality. I mean, come on, if we do it in our simulations, why wouldn't it be done here? Which is you can only be in one place at a time.
Yeah.
So therefore, we can create whatever, because you can't be there and here simultaneously. Now, if you could, then you'd have a real problem there, because you'd be like, crap, I can't resolve both. But because, again, corpuscular rays or the sun setting or whatever you're looking at in the sky, you're saying, I'll use the belt of Orion real quick, which is the belt of, you're looking at the belt, we'll use the stars. You're looking at the belt of Orion, and you call your buddy who's 800 miles away, right?
Yeah.
And he sees the belt of Orion too, right? And you say, well, the middle star is green. And he says, no, it's red.
Yeah.
Who's right?
Yeah.
Technically, you both could be right, because it's being projected that way. No different than, now this is kind of a cheap version, but you'll get it, which is that dress that people were talking about years ago, which was, is the dress black or is it white? Meaning, you had people staring at the same monitor. You ever seen that one where there was this weird kind of dress thing? No one was wearing it, and 7 people in the room saw it as black, and 3 of them saw it as white. Same image, same computer. They're standing right next to each other. Who was right?
Is it like an illusion thing?
It was an illusion. It was how your eyes were viewing the freaking image. The point was, you could give all of them lie detector tests and they'd all pass.
Yeah.
So reality is subjective.
Well, Mark, why I said this is because I was trying to poke at the globers, because they say we see the sun, setting because we're backwards. We're going backwards. Okay, fine. But what if I'm over here? Wouldn't
no, because I know what you're going at. No, don't even try going that way with the glober. Just stick with the David Weiss thing, because he's accumulated the most footage out of anybody, which is it just goes off into the distance, and the only reason you see it set at all is because of the thickness of the atmosphere.
I know.
Which is, again, people do not realize. Again, I get it. Nobody wants to remember science from school, which is we're not breathing in nothing. right? This is only 99.9% transparent. It's mostly nitrogen, and it gets thicker over distance to where eventually you can't see anything, including the sun. Even the sun can't punch through it at X miles. We don't know exactly what those miles are.
Yeah.
But same. I mean, again, same thing with water. Same thing again. If you've ever known anyone that scuba dives, you scuba dive down to 200, not even 200 feet, right? 200 feet, you can't see the sun at all. You lose almost all colors. You cannot see the sun. It might be a summer day. The sun's right above you. You cannot see it because it can't penetrate the water. We're breathing in a thin version of water. Therefore, the sun can't penetrate it. So don't worry about that one.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this one.
Yeah.
You know, the thunderbolt. You know, when it thunders outside, thunderstrike or whatever it's called.
Lightning.
Thank you, lightning.
That's right. No, thunderbolt's good. There's lightning and thunder. Thunderbolt's totally fine.
Yeah. So it echoes.
Yeah.
What is it echoing? What is it bouncing? You know what I mean? Like, because that should not happen if it's not something
pretty close.
That it bounces with, right?
Yeah. There are some thoughts out there that the part of the ceiling that we can't get through is way lower than we think it is, and that kind of makes sense, right? Because remember, commercial airlines cap out at roughly 10 miles. On a good day, spy planes maybe double that. That's only 20 miles high. A lightning strike, is big, and it comes from a long way up, and it creates a huge amount of noise. And does that noise kind of bounce off what's something close?
Right.
For me, it does. Yeah.
The Globers say that we don't have any
dome.
Dome or whatever. So what is creating that bouncing thing?
Yeah. Oh, dude, you could go on so many different tangents for that. Oh no, there's absolutely a dome. We're in a pressurized system. I mean, come on. The thing that I throw out there to everybody, which is, how does our atmosphere stay here? How does it stay here? There's a massive vacuum that's just outside, and it's touching our atmosphere. You are the one that came up with the law of physics that says that pressure cannot exist in non-pressure without a barrier. There is no barrier. You say gravity, and then it's like, no, gravity will lose every single time. I can prove that every day of the week. But you're saying, no, it has to be gravity, because if it isn't, we'd be dead. And I go, that's terrible logic. I go, because you're saying that it can't be anything else. It can't be a pressurized system. It has to be gravity because you don't believe in the pressurized system. It's like, fine, right? Don't believe in the pressurized system. That's how it works.
But because since the air is thinning out, something is going on up there. Like,
well, that's fine. That's fine. Look, our air weighs something, right? No different than water pressure, right?
Yeah.
And you know this, right? So like, you can go swimming 30 feet down, you're fine, right? You try swimming at 500 feet, you're dead. Right? Why? Because the weight of the water keeps pressing, and it creates massive water pressure. No different with air. I mean, it's thicker down here. I mean, remember, it's called atmospheric pressure. It's thicker here, but as you get further up, there's not as much weight pressing down on it. And again, I still believe in some sort of gravity. Even David's going to jump on that a little bit, which is, density affects everything, but there's still something causing it to go down. Is it electrostatic? Either way, but the air that we breathe has weight, and so it doesn't matter. It gets thinner at higher elevations. We've all done it, right? When you get up at, altitude sickness kicks in for human beings at 7,000 feet, and planes commercial airlines really can't go much higher than, at 50,000 feet they're pushing. They're in trouble. Why? Because they can't push off of anything, which is, a side note, which is, so when you're walking, your feet are pushing off the ground. When you're swimming, your hands and your legs are pushing off the water. Even planes push against the air.
Yeah.
What's a rocket pushing off of when it's in space? It's not. Therefore, it can't move forward because there's nothing for it to push off against. Not my rules. They're your rules. And you're like, oh, no, it's our thruster. And blah, 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 blah. It's like, no. And because you can't replicate it down here, you can't prove it up there. It's like, now, to that point, can you send something into a vacuum? Yeah. But once it's there, you're on your own. You're screwed. You
Right?
can't make a left turn or right turn. You can't slow down. You can't speed up. You're really in trouble.
Right?
But can you
Because
get
you don't
there?
have anything to push.
There's
push you.
nothing to push off against. That's the whole point. No different than in a vacuum chamber. You know, the little things like even a bell, for example, does not work in a vacuum chamber. You put a bell in a vacuum chamber, you take out the air, the bell does not make sound because there's nowhere for even the sound waves to go. So what sort of thrust are you using to get to the moon? Nothing. You're not using anything. It's why
you know
what?
You know what, Mark? Just recently, they came up and said that the moon is shrinking.
Oh, so, yeah, that whole thing.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, that's just another space reinforcement story, which is every story they run. They don't even want you to read the article, and most people don't. All it is like there's a story about the moon because you're in space. Hey, there's a face on Mars. You're in space. Oh, hey, something with Venus, something with Saturn, something with Jupiter, something with our probe. Oh, look, there's a black hole. Oh, look, we detected gravity waves. Oh, Oh, look,
But they say the moon is shrinking, so that might make it impossible for them to go back to the moon.
Well, yeah, I covered a story last Tuesday where a former NASA chief was saying that they should probably scrap the Artemis project. And it's like, yeah, again, the average person, because it takes so long. Every president we've had in the United States, going all the way back even before Reagan, said, oh, we're going back to the moon. We've got it covered. We're going back, right? 4 years goes by, for a decade after freaking decade, to where now we just kick the can down the road. I mean, 50th year in a row. And people like, when you going back? In fact, not just the Americans, not only has no one gone back to the moon, right? The Americans, no, but no one's even tried. And so, no, Japan tried to land something. It's like, I haven't tried to land people, anyone with a real camera. And again, it's one of the problems of social media, which is if you release footage now, it's got to be perfect. Absolutely perfect, and you know full well that's almost impossible to do. No movie can make no studio can make a movie without movie mistakes. And we pride ourselves on it. Everyone would stare and like open it up with Photoshop and throw it into video editors, and they'd stare and they'd find it. It can't be done.
The most ridiculous one was the Indian one. You know, the Indian moon landing. That was like Nintendo 64 graphics or something. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
The yellow landing. That was ridiculous, man.
And they did it for what was it, $75 million? Supposedly. They land on the moon. I go, you can't even buy a decent super yacht for $75 million. And you guys went to the moon? No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, let me ask you about this. I touched on this a little bit in another stream.
Yeah.
The North Pole, if we're going to believe it's a globe, why is the North Pole smaller than the South Pole? Because isn't the South Pole getting more sun than the North Pole, if we're gonna believe the tilt of the globe? And you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if anyone's ever asked that, because it's such an odd question. Why is the North Pole smaller than the South Pole? Because if you're going to go down that road, we'll ask why. I mean, it's okay. It's not a bad question. I don't know if it gets as much traction as like, why is there a magnetic north but not a magnetic south, which nobody talks about, which is compasses only point north. And again, if you know your school, it's like, look, there's a positive and a negative, right? Red, red and green. And so when you get beyond the equator, it should start dominating south to where when you finally get to Antarctica, that needle should be buried south. And it never, ever does. You can ask anybody. You look up on YouTube all day long. It's like, what does the compass do in Antarctica? Does nothing. In fact, they have it's useless down in Antarctica because it's so far away from the North Pole and there's no magnetic south. But yet they'll take you to that pole in the middle of the snow, right? The South Pole. It's like, oh, this is the South Pole. It's like, really? Is it magnetic south? Oh, it's the South Pole. It's like, yeah, you freaking clowns.
I know, but I'm just saying this because the Globers, if we're gonna believe their model, then the North Pole should have more ice than the South. Because,
it should, but it doesn't. Or if you're gonna go that far, why do either of the poles have any water at all? Remember, if it's spinning like a merry-go-round, right? The water centrifugal force should take some of that water and press it. There should be no land at the equator. It should be covered with water. And you're saying, well, how does that make sense? So I go, think of Saturn's rings, right? The whole reason Saturn has rings supposedly is because of centrifugal force. It's like the water, full well, water reacts really quickly to motion. And so at the very least, there should be a massive bulge of water at the equator.
And why do we have still lakes at some parts?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, there's that. Oh, well, yeah. Why do the tides, for example, not affect lakes? That's a whole other thing. It's like we got some big lakes out there. Tides don't affect them. And yet that's part of the electromagnetic thing. So
yeah. And another thing also, I saw a video where they were at an open, like was an open area, but there was water there. So you could see the mirroring of the skyline of the sky on the water, and it was, perfectly straight reflection,
not bending. No, it's absolutely mirror image. Yeah,
that should not be possible.
Yeah, should not be. Or throw in little things like the entire state of Kansas in the United States, which has already been leveled out to be absolutely perfectly flat from one end to the other, hundreds of miles, right? Or one of my favorites, which is, I think it's Bolivia, the Salar del Uyuni, which is a salt flats in Bolivia that I think it's Bolivia, that gets like a half inch of water. And when it does, the whole thing turns into this 100 square mile mirror, right? It's 100 miles from one side to the other. So it's way more than 100 square miles. And it's like, it shouldn't happen. It's like you're telling me there's a perfectly flat area, perfectly flat like that. And it's not just a one-off. There's things like that in Kansas. There's flats all over the place. And it's like, oh no, they're just really, really flat, but it's on a globe. It's like, okay, sure.
And even this though, just looking at the sun reflection on an ocean or whatever, sea, it's also doing that straight reflection. Just like if you're doing a reflection on a flat table, you will see a straight reflection of a light if you do it on a table. That same thing is happening on a sea or an ocean with the sun.
Right.
You're not seeing, like what is it called? Like what is the word I'm looking for? You don't see the sun's reflection as a spotlight.
Right.
You see it as a straight
thing. Straight line. Right.
Yeah. So even that kind of proves that thing.
Oh yeah. We crush them all day long on stuff like that.
Yeah. Let me tell you, talk about this one. The clock system that is absolutely spotless and perfect. How is that happening in an accidental,
right,
like Big Bang nonsense? How do we get the clock system to be exactly how it is, like in precision, like in the seconds, in the minutes, hours?
Right. If you're going to go that road, there's a couple things I'd want to touch on. First off would be the look up, and I only got into this fairly recently, which was the time zones, how they are. I mean, Austin Whitsitt did some wonderful stuff on the time zones, where when you look at the time zones, because there should be 24 equal bands of time zones around this world, they are really screwed up, and they only make sense on a flat model on the AE map, which is, especially the one up here where Alaska meets Russia, where it jumps 3 hours for no apparent reason whatsoever. 3 hours. And it's not like, of course you bend some time zones here and there for lakes and rivers and, geographical things. But what happens is when you lay it out on a flat map, it does not make sense at all. Kind of like, for example, Australia and America are on equal ends, one in the southern, one in the other. They're roughly the same size. We have 4 time zones bordering on 5 if you include the tip of Maine, right?
Yeah.
They have 2. It's like, oh, okay. How does that happen? Well, if you were drawing, if you were trying to compress a flat map into a globe, you have to get rid of some of the time zones in certain areas and add them in as you get closer up above. What if you haven't seen that video? I'll send it to you. But it's absolutely brilliant.
I want to see that. But
the other thing about time, which would be the moon. How we only see exactly one face of it. It's locked in. It doesn't even change a quarter of a degree, even in a century.
So how do we even know that that's a 3D object? What I mean
Exactly. Because again, if you're from the video game world, right, from the computer world, that's exactly what we would do. Or the fact that all the craters are set at 40 or 90 degree angles, right? Where the craters are are circles, like they came in perfectly straight down. Or come on, you're going to go that far, then go to the stars. How stars have never transited with each other, meaning there's no parallax. Right, we're flying in all these different directions, and the stars never cross paths. It's the same zodiac for thousands of years. Same freaking zodiac.
When you zoom that shit in, it doesn't look 3D either. It looks like a 2D, whatever that is.
Yep.
And the sun, for us to even determine that is a sphere, wouldn't it need shade? Do you know what I mean? Like the circle would need shades.
Yep. Yeah, come on. I could do that all day. Or the eclipse shadow. The fact that the eclipse, because we have an eclipse coming up in America in 2 months.
Okay.
And the eclipse shadow the blackout zone is only 70 miles wide. It's like, wait a minute, the moon is 2,000 miles wide. Why is the blackout zone 70 miles wide when we say that's pretty much approximately what we say the moon is to begin with? Right? Wow, what a coincidence. The blackout zone is that small. It's like it shouldn't be. That doesn't happen in real optics ever, which is you never walk by a building and your shadow shrinks down to the size of an action figure. It never, ever happens. So,
Flat Earth Dave had a thing regarding the eclipse that he thought it was like the sun source he thinks it's outside of this firmament or whatever.
Sure.
And that something is covering the projection of the sun. Or something. I might be wrong.
Absolutely. No, absolutely right. There was a guy, one of our guys, his name was Mike Helmick. He passed away a couple of years ago. And I remember him calling me after the 2017 eclipse. And he goes, Mark, nothing's eclipsing the sun. And I go, what do you mean nothing's eclipsing? He goes, there's no physical object eclipsing the sun. He goes, I've got it all on camera. He goes, it's eclipsing itself. And I go, oh my, again, the light bulbs don't click in until something does it for you. It's like, of course, in a planetarium, how do you create a crescent, or how do you create the shadows on the moon in a planetarium? You just do. Right? You just set the moon. You just shade the moon yourself. Yeah. That's what you do. Of course, we don't put the sun in a planetarium because it doesn't make any sense. Who would want to see the sun in a planetarium? But shading the sun would be no different. You just shade the freaking sun on a much, much bigger scale of again, how would we do it in software, for example?
Yeah.
In the sun, if you want to create a sun eclipse in GTA, for example, how would you do it? You're not going to move an object in front of it. You're just going to freaking shade it. Now, you're going to make that object close to it, right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to have it literally go in front of it because that would be a pain in the ass to create, a 2D object in front of another 2D. No, you're just going to get it there, and then you're going to shade it yourself, and then you're going to have the other one kick off.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Insane. Yeah. It's insane. Okay, let me ask you
couple more.
Yeah. I mean, I want to ask you about religion a little bit.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, that's fine.
I don't even know. Are you Christian?
I was raised born again Christian, but when I got into the tech field, I mean, come on, you can't be in tech that much without falling away from religion. But when I got into flat Earth, I had that realization that, oh wow, so the whole creator thing, that's a thing. Now, to that point though, do I respect all the 5 major religious houses? Oh yeah, you bet I do. Yeah. Do I think they've all got pieces of the same puzzle? Yes. Do I think they've all been corrupted at certain levels because power and money corrupt everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone's got the exclusive rights to. I mean, come on. People say, my peace-loving God is better than your peace-loving God, and I'll kill you to defend that, right?
Right.
So come on. And everybody, and I'm not trying to be glib when I say this. It's like, look, you better be sure you're backing the right horse because you got a 1 in 5 chance. Because the first God that shows up wins.
Right.
So don't.
And think about this.
Yeah.
If they could just all agree that they're worshiping the same God, because there is only one God.
There you go. Yeah.
Right? There's only one creator.
Yeah.
That would be like half of the population of the world or more. I don't know how much, but
80% are tied to 80% are tied to the major 5 religions.
Yeah. Think about the peace that could come just by that thing alone. So my thing is this.
Yeah.
they say, for example, I'm going to take the Bible. I've heard that they say whoever wrote the Bible got inspired by the word of God. I don't know if that's what it is, but that's what I've heard. Okay, but let's play with that. Let's play that the Bible was saying something horrible, like, I'm going to exaggerate it. Like, let's say something was said in the Bible, in the word of God, like God says it's okay to off some people at the 18th of the month, or some ridiculous thing.
Right.
Would you still align yourself with that if you read something weird like that in the book of supposed God?
Well, then you're getting into Bible literalists versus Bible like fundamentalists, which is, I mean, come on, in the Christian Bible, there's all sorts of weird stuff that's still in there. Stuff you're supposed to do, stuff you're not supposed to do. It reads like ancient.
But I'm talking about the simple stuff, like let's say in the 10 Commandments, instead of the things that are in there now, let's say there was some odd thing in there. Would there still be people?
There still would be, but the majority still rules. I'm a big believer that in majority consensus taking over. And come on, this has happened over the years. For example, if you remember the old stories, suicide wasn't built in into some of the Bible literature, and it was built in to get to really reduce the instance of suicide cults back in the day. There were a number of suicide cults in ancient times, and they built it. It's like, by the way, suicide's a sin, and go figure. Much less suicide cults, right? So would I align it? Me personally, no, but I don't have to worry about that, since I think most of those have been taken care of.
But why I'm saying, go.
Well, I was about to say is that's the reason why we have the division of the religions, meaning, the Christian religion and Islam and Buddhism and Hinduism and Judaism, they all have their sticking points, and those sticking points are the reason why they were factioned off as much as they were. And I also think it was deliberately part of the system, which is why would we have one religion? The story that I talked about in the Clues real fast, which was the Tower of Babel, one of the finest little stories, which was the very first civilization of this particular place, was too unified and too organized and too advanced to where they immediately knew where they were. It's like, oh, okay, so we're in a dome, and we're going to try to make it, start building. We're going to see if we can meet God. We have the ability to actually build a structure that can reach God. We know exactly how to do it. And God looks down. It was a great story where God looks down and is like, this isn't going to work out. So we got to, it's like scatter, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, languages. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then that was it. So sorry.
Yeah. But why I'm saying this is because I want to get to a point here.
Okay.
The people believing in religion, are they doing that because the words of God kind of
gives them hope, gives them faith?
But they're agreeing with what God is saying in the
Bible.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, people.
But why are they agreeing with what God is saying?
Because God,
we already have those things built inside of us. The people that are sane, that is, not the psychopaths.
People, the old saying, lead follower, get out of the way. God is to many people, 80% of this world, is the ageless leader. People love leaders. We always have, the pyramid shape, the masses look up to icons, and they always have. I don't care if it's a sports icon or it's a religious icon or freaking Taylor Swift. People, look up to these people. It's like, which is why, never meet your heroes, that type of thing. So that's why they agree, because it's like, oh, these are the words written by your hero. Therefore, we will follow. Come on, the commanders in the military,
like a cult thing, right?
It is, but it's with every structure we have. I mean, soldiers follow generals. right? The generals are raised not that much different than the soldiers, but it's like, well, we have to have faith in our leaders, and God and the books that surround that God are the ultimate, you know, in the, why wouldn't you follow it? That's just how it's set up. So, I mean, and it's up to us to figure out how to interpret it and either break away or come into a self-discovery where there's a balance. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It drives me nuts when something turns into a cult and then they mindlessly, you know, but that goes into the whole the mob rules, which is, come on, the mob is a dangerous thing that as you know, if it gets ahead of steam, logic goes out the window, and next thing you know, it's like, hey, burn a whole bunch of witches because they can.
I can't stand cults. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's in music, whatever it is, I just can't stand it because it becomes like a hive mind weirdness. I want to see your individuality because I believe everybody has I mean, the non-NPC people at least has a uniqueness. And I want to see that. I want to see your uniqueness.
The line from Men in Black, which was very famous now, which is a person is smart, but people are dumb, panicky, and dangerous.
Yes.
And it seems like when you have a person, you're right. And the individual, come on, we've seen this with the Ash experiment many times, which is you get like 6 people in an elevator, actors, right? And then you put a 7th person, doesn't know what's happening. 6 people turn and face a wall that has nothing to do with the door in the elevator. That 7th person is going to turn. It's going to turn with them because it's like, okay, do I want to go against the group? Is there something they know I don't? You're right. They give up their individuality. They give up their own intelligence, which is why, and we'll have to wrap this up pretty soon.
Absolutely.
Which is why the flat Earth thing takes a while, because we're the masses out there, it's like, oh, flat Earth's dumb, right? And because you got a big group of people behind you, but then that group gets smaller and smaller to where we're not quite at the tipping point, but we're damn close. I mean, we've gained so many through attrition, which is fantastic.
You're right about that. We need to reach a tipping point before the sheeple can align themselves to.
There you go.
But we're heading. We're going. It's going good. It's going good.
I think it is. I haven't had any problems with it. In fact, the pandemic just changed it for us, which was, it forced people inside, but it also forced people on their computers and their phones, and they were going down way more rabbit holes. Mostly because they ran out of things to watch on Netflix. So
it's too bad we didn't touch on that. I wanted to touch on that too, but
all right, we can do it at a different time.
Absolutely, it was absolutely my honor. It was a.
Oh no!
I did not know that you had so many different, thoughts.
Oh, I have a tough time sleeping, man. It's not easy.
I'm the same. It never stops. It never stops. It's like, but it's very cool to see that side of you.
Thank you.
I enjoy this a lot.
Cool.
And I'm gonna watch with my wife those movies that you said.
Yeah, I've sent the 3 to you, and the 3 for anyone that's listening would be that I sent were Freeman, which is a movie about NPCs, which I think is great. So I think it's funny, but you got to remember, it's all NPCs. The Discovery with Robert Redford about, can you record human thoughts after they die, and the 13th Floor, which is, are we living in a simulation?
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks for that, Mark. This was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's do it again.
You let me know when, and I'd be happy to come on.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you, Mark. See you next time, Mark.
Thanks.
Peace out, everybody. Peace. Bye.
Bye.